Back in 2023, I ran my first ever marathon in a time of 3 hours and 10 minutes. October 2025, I ran my fastest marathon of 2 hours and 40 minutes. In this video, I'm gonna break down how I managed to PR in all 7 of my marathons, what my training looked like, some of the mistakes I feel like I made, and how you can apply it to your training, your running journey, so that maybe you don't make the same mistakes I did. From 310 to 240, let's go. So I did run 4 years of track in high school and I was all right. I ran like a 4:49 in the mile, low 2 minutes in the 800. Kids nowadays would call those times chopped, but back in the day, they were all right. They were fine. Throughout the track season, we were running 20, maybe 30 miles a week, not really going past 4 or 5 miles on any of our training runs. So yeah, one of my biggest regrets is never actually running cross country, seeing what I could have done in some longer distances. After high school, I actually joined a college track program as a walk-on. I was able to get in some higher mileage weeks despite being injured and not really competing. I think I maybe hit 50 miles one week. The injuries really deterred me from any sort of serious training, but I got a slight taste of what it could be like to be a distance runner. So after leaving the team my freshman year, the next 6 or 7 years, I pretty much did no running at all. I'd go for a couple random jogs here or there if I felt the inspiration, but no training plans, no races. Until summer 2022, I'm working on Rainy Street in Austin. I'm in my peak party days. My buddy asked me to sign up for a triathlon. Never done something like that, but sounds like a challenge. Why not? What else are we doing? Just partying. Now, the triathlon went about as good as you could expect off of a couple weeks of training. What it did was re-sparked my love for competition. The end of the triathlon obviously finishes with the run. And I was like, man, that was so much fun. I wish I would have had a bit more in the tank. I wonder if I gave this one more shot. I've always wanted to run a marathon. Skip the half, skip the 10Ks. Let's just go straight for the full marathon. So I signed up for my hometown race, Pittsburgh Marathon, May of 2023. And I set the ambitious goal of a sub 3 hour debut marathon, pretty much from couch to sub 3, but I gave myself plenty of time. I gave myself 8 months. Also, I just want to preface this by saying I'm going to be talking a lot about what my mileage was. I don't really think that you should focus too much on mileage, especially when you're starting out. You just need to get your body used to handling longer runs. I'm just saying this as a metric, as a way to compare from point A to point B. Now, a key mistake I made here was jumping up my mileage way too quick. I'll see if I can pull up the Strava, but I'm pretty sure I went from 30 miles to 50 miles to 70 miles. 3 consecutive weeks. Absolutely insane. I think I read online somewhere that you need to be running 70 miles a week to really be a good marathoner. I don't know what I was thinking. Obviously, after those couple weeks, I was a train wreck. Every injury you can imagine, shin splints, runner's knee, hip instability, everything started popping up. So the next few months leading into the race, it was just me trying to scrape together some runs here and there, mixed in with the cross training, hobbled up to the start line at Pittsburgh, and I still managed a 3:10. Going back, I would have been much more gradual with my mileage progression. I don't think I would have jumped past 50 miles. Just because, again, I was pretty much brand new to distance running. Your body really needs some time to figure out how to handle all that mileage. For this first marathon build, I would have what Hermosi called uninformed optimism, where I didn't really realize what it took. I had all this energy. I was like, I'm new to running, signed up for my first marathon, let's go. And then you have that, oh shit moment. You realize how hard it's actually gonna be. Thought I could squeeze in another 3-hour marathon attempt before September, which is the Boston Marathon application cutoff. Erie Marathon back in Pennsylvania. I think I only really scraped together a month and a half or 2 months of solid training. Did hit 70 miles again at my peak week. While I wasn't as banged up going into the race, I just didn't quite have the endurance still. I faded in the back half of the race and ended up with a 3:08. The main takeaway from Erie was that you can't fake the marathon. If you have an ambitious goal like that, you have to go all in, I think. And I was still partying, not really sleeping, not really taking care of my nutrition, but I was like, oh, I'm hitting my mileage, I should be good. Maybe that works for some people. Didn't work for me, and that was a reality check. Took a step back and I was like, okay, this is gonna be a lot harder than I thought it was. Is it really worth it to me? And how am I even gonna get there at this point? Because Mo for 2, I wonder if I actually just go all in. Essentially stop half-assing it. And that's what I did. Hired a coach, stopped drinking alcohol, really focused on my nutrition, my sleep, my mobility, my strength work, all of that stuff. And believe it or not, it paid off. I had my breakthrough race at the Glass City Marathon in Toledo, Ohio with a 2 hours and 50 minutes. 18-minute PR from Erie in September. Still to this day, my biggest jump. Now, leading into Glass City, my training was much more consistent. I actually didn't ever hit 70 miles, but I just hit a lot more consecutive weeks at like 60, 65 miles. Because my body could handle it, because I was sleeping, eating right, hydrated. All these details matter when you're trying to squeeze as much energy out of yourself as you can for a 3-hour race. But having a coach was great because it was a lot more accountability. I knew how much mileage I was going to be needing to hit for the week, exactly what my workouts were going to be, all those things that like normally would have been me scrambling to figure out last minute and then like just skipping a workout, whatever. Main takeaway from Glass City was it's okay to go all in towards something that you care about. It didn't just mean running harder on my workout days. It was all these other factors that were playing into my energy levels that were really, really important that I was just neglecting in the past. Am I saying that everyone has to go all in, change their life around to run a fast marathon? No. Do whatever you want. I'm just saying that's what worked for me. That's kind of what it took for me to get to that next level. Now, later in 2024, I knew that I was going to be taking a pretty big break from running to go hike the Appalachian Trail with my sister. That was going to be in August, and I was like, you know what? I want to try to sneak in one more marathon before I leave for my trip. So I saw that the San Francisco Marathon was at the end of July. But I've always wanted to go. Let's go rip the marathon. My goal for San Francisco was like 245 range. Wasn't really sure how I was going to go with all the hills, but I ended up running 248, which I actually was pretty happy with at the time. It was only a 2-minute PR, but on a much harder course and with a great adjusted pace. It said I was in like low 240s for the day. So would have loved to see what I could have done on a flat course that day, but that's how the marathon is. Main takeaway from San Francisco was to train more downhills. I felt really strong going up the hills, and I did do a ton of hill training in Austin, but I didn't train enough downhills. And when you're running really fast downhill, there was a couple points in the race where I felt like a shock to my system. You're running faster than like your marathon pace, because you're just letting it carry you down the hill. It can tear up your legs pretty bad. So I just wish I would have trained a bit more downhills and just kind of like mimicked the course a bit better in my training. Now, flash forward to the AT. I had an amazing time. It's a super underrated part of the country, in my opinion. Beautiful mountains, beautiful scenery, lakes, wildlife. Just nice, peaceful, and quiet. But it ended up being a little rough on me physically. I ended up losing like over 10 pounds, got really bad food poisoning. That knocked me off the trail early. Now, for about a month or two after, I really didn't feel like myself. My energy was super low, and I couldn't really find the groove again in my training. I was getting kind of worried because I had my next marathon already on the calendar, which was the Houston Marathon in January. Up my mileage, I was up in the 70s, and then boom, freak accident happens. I had started doing a lot more core work, a lot more twists and like upper body mobility stuff, and I think I overdid it a little bit. And I go for a run end of November. It starts to rain. I'm running downhill. There's a wet part of the asphalt, and I slip. And as I go to like catch myself before I fall, feel something in my upper back lock up. Never experienced anything like that. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't finish my run. I had to call my girlfriend, who's now my wife, come pick me up because I couldn't even make it home. I found out that I had slipped a rib, my upper back. I had a chiropractor put it back in, but it really threw me off for a couple weeks. So I scraped together a few more weeks of running leading into Houston, but I knew I wasn't at my best, and I really shouldn't have ran. I went for it, and I actually still managed to come away with a PR. So I still shot for 245, ended up walking away with 246. But yeah, the main thing I learned from the Houston build, I think the signs the universe is giving you, like you're sick on the trail. I have this weird freak injury, barely even running the month leading up to the race. I should have just dropped out. I really should have taken the time to just rest and recover. But you know how we are as runners, we're stubborn. And I decided to sign up for the Austin Half Marathon, which if you know anything about the Austin Half Marathon, it's not the easiest course. Start straight uphill. There's a lot of rolling hills. It's a pretty unforgiving course. I beat my time by like 3 minutes from the previous year, but I felt horrible. As fun as racing in Austin is, I should have just skipped it. And I knew I had about 6 weeks of really good training that I could hit before the taper for Boston. And that's what I did. I had great training. I hit a 75-mile week in there as my peak week. And then in April 2025, I ran my first ever Boston Marathon. This is what I had been training for almost 2 years at this point. And I was so excited. And due to that fact, I did let my emotions get the best of me a little bit. I noticed in the first couple miles, my heart rate was getting up pretty close to my threshold, which my threshold's around 175 early in the race. Too early in the race to be hitting that. I knew I was burning some matches. If you've ever run Boston, the crowds are insane, high-fiving people. I'm having a great time. The plan was to run close to 240. Since I pushed the first half a little too hard, I faded in the back half, ended up running 244. So again, not the performance I would have really wanted. And my main takeaway from Boston was like, still feeding off the crowd's energy, but just like not getting too carried away by it. It's really easy to have a plan and have a race plan, but it's really hard to stick to it once the race starts and things are happening and seeing seeing people throughout the race. Always save the energy for the back half. The classic marathon tale where you push too hard in the beginning and you fade a little bit in the back. Now, I didn't have much time to recover after Boston because I had another half marathon on the schedule, which was the Brooklyn Half Marathon. My goal was to run under 121 so that I could qualify for the New York City Marathon in 2026. I did run 121, but just barely. A 120.50, really tough race, really hot conditions. That pretty much squeezed every ounce of fitness and energy I had left. I took a couple weeks, just super easy to recover. In the month of June, I was traveling in Europe, so I wasn't hitting any good workouts or any really good long runs. It was more so just like maintenance miles. Now, after all the fun and games and European summer was over, in the beginning of July, I came back to Texas, launched my online running coaching business. My wife was traveling for her last year of school, and I wanted to be with her. So this allowed me to travel with her and not have to continue to work in the service industry like I had been for the previous couple years. No shade to anyone working in the service industry. I worked in it on and off for like 10 years, but it's not the most advantageous when you're into running or fitness or any sort of working out because there are such late nights. Just throws off your rhythm, throws off your sleep schedule. A lot of this training stuff is about establishing routine. Pretty much impossible to do when you have a job that keeps you up so late. All that to say, this allowed for my best 3 months of running in my life. I hit 100 miles in a single week for the first time ever, mainly because I stacked 2 long runs in the same week, but multiple weeks where I was hitting over 80 miles in a single week, which was crazy because I had never even done 1 week over 80 miles before. So I was hitting a ton of mileage. I was feeling great, super healthy. It paid off for Chicago. I had my best race to date. My goal going into Chicago, to run under 2 hours and 40 minutes. Now, I have a full race breakdown on Chicago if you're interested in seeing that. I'll link that in the description below. But essentially ended up running 121 first half and 118 and change second half. Negative split a lot. I ended up probably leaving a little bit of time on the table. Definitely my best race to date. Main lesson learned from Chicago was to trust myself a bit more and trust my fitness. I had the best 3-month stretch of training I've ever had. It was great weather. I was feeling good that day. I should have leaned into that a bit more. I was a little bit too conservative. All that to say, I'd rather finish a marathon stronger than I started. And I was just thankful to feel really good in the back half. So no real regrets. All in all, it was a great day. A great race, great build. The awesome thing about the marathon is that you just learn so much. It's like rapid learning, all condensed into one race. You figure out what you did right in training, what you could have done more of, and whether or not it'll come together on race day. And it's just really cool to see how it all comes together. I'm super excited for my next couple races, which aren't for a while. Pittsburgh Half Marathon this time I'll be racing in next May, and then Grandma's Full Marathon in June. Till then, I'm just gonna be doing a ton of aerobic running, essentially building up a huge foundation. Let me know what some of the biggest lessons you guys have learned in some of your races. Always curious to see. You know, the marathon's funny because a lot of people can tell you how to race it or tell you how to train for it, but until you actually do it for yourself, you can't know for sure. You can't really know, oh, that's why I don't go out too fast in the marathon. Someone tells you it, and you're like, yeah, I get it. I'll be fine though. I'm good. I can figure it out. Until you experience it for yourself, there's nothing quite like it. Posting a ton on this channel, all about my training, getting ready for these next few races. So if you're interested, subscribe to see those. Happy running, y'all. Catch you on the next one.